The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hello, everyone. We're going to get started here just at the top of the hour. Looks like we got about 3 more minutes till we're going to get started, so I'm going to let everyone have time to get in, but we will get started right at 12. But for those of you that are already logged in, if you could locate the chat box and just let me know if you can hear me all right. It's helpful for me to know if my audio is working good before we get started. Let me know maybe where you are dialing in from today, and if you can see my screen as well, you should see a PowerPoint presentation that says email newsletter tips. Great, it looks like you guys can hear me and can see my screen all right. That's good. Looks like we have people dialing in from a few different places. We have some people on the West Coast, out in California, some people here on the East Coast. If you don't know, Build Your Firm, our offices are in Connecticut, so we're on the East Coast. We've been having a very hot and humid summer here in Connecticut, especially in August. It's been much more humid than usual. But we will get started here in just a minute. So just hang tight while everyone gets logged in. All right, everyone, it is the top of the hour, so I am going to just get started with some of the basic things that we'll need to know for today's webinar. We'll probably be here for about 30 minutes or so, sort of depending on how quick we go through everything and the kind of questions that you guys have for me. But I do want to just get started here. I know your time is precious, my time is precious, so I don't want to waste your time. We are going to be going over basically everything that you need to know about the newsletter tool that comes with your website. At the beginning, we're going to talk a little bit about, why a newsletter is important if you're not already using it. A few housekeeping things. I will be recording today's webinar, so if you want access to it later, it will be uploaded to the client dashboard under your webinar library. If you want to listen to it, you want somebody else in your firm to listen to it. If you haven't already, please locate the chat bar inside of your GoToMeeting, your little modal that you have up on your screen. That's where you can pop any questions that you might have to me throughout the webinar. Anything that you sort of want to ask me, you can let me know in there. If you want to test it out, I had some people letting me know where they were signing in from. Feel free to let me know if you can hear me, where you're signing in from. Pop that into the question box there, but that's where you can ask me any questions throughout this webinar. This webinar has been quite full. I'm really happy to see how many people signed up for it. I'm glad to see that you guys are interested in the newsletter tool and learning a little bit more about it. So that's really great. I'm glad to see how many people have signed up. So let's go ahead and just sort of get started here with introductions. For those of you that don't know me already, most of you in the attendees are pretty familiar names to me, but some of you I haven't had the pleasure of talking to before. My name's Callie Bransford. I'm the content marketing manager here at Build Your Firm, which basically means that I kind of do a little bit of everything. I work with the website side of our business. I work with the marketing side of our business. But in general, I just work with our clients to help them better get found online and how to utilize the content marketing tools that come with their website to generate more leads online. So I do a little bit of everything. Today's agenda, we're going to talk about the importance of email newsletters first, just sort of go over why it's important to have an email newsletter. Then we're going to talk about some of the best practices for sending email newsletters, and then we're going to jump into the newsletters tool that comes with your website. And I'm going to give you a demo of how that system works if you've never used it before. And then I'll open it up to any questions that you guys might have for me. So like I said, if you haven't located the chat box yet, find that, pop any questions you have in there at any time. I am running solo on today's webinar, so I will not be answering questions during the presentation, but I will get to all of your questions at the end, anything that you might have. Okay, so before we get started, I'm actually just going to put a poll question up on your screen just to give me a little bit more information about who I have joining us today and sort of what you're hoping to get out of today's webinar. So I'm going to put this up on your screen here. And just let me know why you're joining today's webinar. I'll give you, 30 or 60 seconds here to just give me an idea. You should be able to choose any that apply. So if you have multiple reasons that you're joining us, let me know what you're hoping to get out of today's webinar, and we'll get started here in a second. All right, great. Looks like pretty much everyone's voted. Love to see that everyone's participating. That's great. We got a little bit of everything. People looking to learn a little bit more about the tool that comes with their website. That's really good to know. See a live demo of the tool, which is great. We're definitely going to pop into the system and take a look at how you can upload your recipients, how you can send out newsletters. And then a good chunk of you interested in learning a little bit more about how to use the tool to market your firm more. So great. That's all stuff that we're really going to cover today. So let's get started here and talk about why sending a newsletter is important. I'm assuming that, based off of the questions you guys just answered for me and just the fact that you signed up for today's webinar, you have an idea about newsletters, whether you're already using them or whether you want to use them more, you want to use them more efficiently, or maybe you don't use them at all, but you know that it's something that you could probably be using to better market your practice. Maybe you're somewhere in between one of those. What I really want to start off by is just taking a quick second to explain to you why sending newsletters is really important and why it matters, what's the importance of them, and why we encourage our clients to send them. Your website, if you don't know, comes with a free newsletter tool that's available for you to use to send out newsletters, and we offer that because we know that newsletters are really important and they can be really beneficial for our clients to use. So the first thing is that a newsletter is really just a very efficient mode of communication. It's an ideal way to inform and guide your clients on things that they should be doing, whether you're helping them get ready for tax season, you want to help remind them about deadlines. Newsletters go directly into your recipients' email boxes, so it's just a really great way to stay in touch. Newsletters also can help you stay top of mind. We've all heard, of course, of out of sight, out of mind. And by sending consistent newsletters, it allows your name and your firm's name to stay fresh in your client's mind, as well as prospectives' minds as well. If you have your prospects uploaded into the newsletter system. So it can also act as a really great referral source as well, because you're sort of staying top of mind with your own clients. And then, if they're looking, they're talking to somebody and they're, a professional colleague or a friend or a family member or whatever, you're sort of top of mind if the option for a referral comes along. On top of that, when you are sending a newsletter, you're usually providing relevant and helpful information on a steady and regular basis. So we're going to sort of talk about that a little bit, about how you can provide content in your newsletter that's helpful to your recipients. And this allows you to sort of position yourself as an expert in the industry. It helps you build trust and authority with clients and prospective clients, and really just positions you as somebody who knows your stuff in this industry. And of course, speaking of prospective clients, if you do have your prospective clients logged into this, uploaded into the system, a newsletter is just a really great way to start to build that relationship with these people. You're positioning yourself as somebody who's knowledgeable, who's well known, who's trusted, and you're easily accessible. At the end of the day, I like to just say that a newsletter, it's an easy and cost-effective way to build relationships and maintain regular contact with your clients and with your prospects. So once you're ready to get started sending newsletters, you're probably sort of thinking about, how does it work? How do I get it set up? What's the best way to do it? So first, let's just cover a couple of best practices that are good to follow, things that will ensure that your newsletters are really going to be as efficient and helpful and purposeful as they can be. So first, I think it's really important to remember that people care about things that matter to them, right? We're all a little bit self-absorbed in that way. So when we're crafting our newsletters, we want to remember to include information or updates about your services as it relates to them. So whether it's due dates, whether it's changes in tax laws, whether it's links to documentation they might need, you always want to think about what's in it for your reader. And you also want to offer quality content to them. One of the biggest challenges, I think, with an email newsletter is just the sheer volume of emails that we receive in our inbox every single day. I think if I told you how many emails I get every day between my work and my personal emails, you'd probably be surprised, but maybe you wouldn't, because I'm sure you get just as many. So you want to make sure that your newsletter has some quality to the recipients. Things like helpful tips, helpful articles. So the newsletter tool that comes with your website comes integrated with the content library, which I'm going to show you if you haven't seen it. But essentially the content library that comes with your newsletter tool is a library that houses over 400 tax and accounting articles. We're constantly working on improving those articles. We actually right now are in the process of adding a bunch of new articles about some of the new tax laws. And these are articles available for you to use inside of your email newsletter. We want to make it as easy as possible for you to add quality into your newsletter. So you're not having to reinvent the wheel. You're not having to come up with all of the content for your newsletter. You can pop all of these articles in there that are already available to you inside of the system. So this is just the picture that you see here on your screen is just an example of what a newsletter might look like. Obviously, it's going to be branded with your logo. You have the option to add your own text, upload your own images, select from over 400 pre-written accounting and tax articles. Those articles are going to drive traffic to your site. And then there's the option for a custom bottom menu at the bottom. You can integrate your social media. And then I always like to mention, because it's one question I always get in these webinars, is there is the option for people to unsubscribe. That's just a normal thing that you have to have when you're sending emails to people. Give people the option to opt out. The system will automatically opt them out of your newsletters. So people are always a little concerned about, what if somebody doesn't want newsletters from me? They always have the option to opt out. My next tip is to just think about being authentic, to think about being local and being organic. What this really is sort of means is, just think about a personalized local email. It's going to really stand out a lot more, and it's going to be a lot less likely to be skipped over. It allows you to sort of connect with your clients a little bit more. So I always encourage people to think about how you can maybe be a little bit more personable and be a little more authentic in your newsletters, whether you mention something that maybe relates in the area where you serve your clients. You mentioned something about the time of year, you announced something special that happened at your firm. These little things just allow you to relate to your clients and sort of build trust and stand out and really give your brand, your firm a little bit of personality and make you feel a little bit more authentic. Next, we always suggest that you use mailing lists and you organize your clients into different mailing lists. I'm going to show you how to do that inside the system. But basically, this means taking your clients and organizing them into specific categories. If you put all of your business clients into one category and you put all of your individual clients into another category, this allows you to sort of send them separate emails. So you could send your individual clients articles just about individual taxes, and you can send your business clients articles about business best practices and business tax related things. You can send them separate emails about due dates that might pertain to them. So really using email lists help you achieve some of the previous things we discussed, like offering even more quality because you're sort of giving them exactly what they need, and you're giving them more relevant content, and it allows you to be a little bit more authentic and organic. The next tip is to be consistent. I think this is something that I see a lot of our accounting firm clients struggle with, and it's the idea of being consistent with email newsletters. Something that I see happen a lot is you get into a habit, you send it every single month for a couple of months, and then you get busy, you lose a team member who was doing it, it kind of falls off the to-do list. That's a really, really common occurrence. But the reason that consistency is really important is it relates to something we already mentioned. First, it's going to help you keep top of mind. The newsletter already gets you directly into your recipient's inbox, which is a really great place to be, but you have to remember you're still competing with a lot of other emails in that email box. So by being consistent, recipients actually get used to seeing you in your inbox. People are more likely to click on emails from addresses they become familiar with, and they become familiar with seeing you come into their email box every single month or every other week if that's what you do. So the newsletter system does come with a recurring option, which I'm going to show you in our demo today. This basically just allows you to set up your email newsletter one time, and then it's going to go out for you automatically. And that's just a really easy way for you to sort of answer this consistency thing. You can make sure that your newsletter is going out, and you don't need to be logging in every single month in order to make that happen. So that really helps you get that content out. And so you have that sort of consistent schedule that you're working on. And if you have time to get in, make some tweaks to it, that's fine. But if you don't, that newsletter is going out so that if you get busy, especially, as you're gearing up for tax season, once you're in tax season, you don't have to worry about the task of logging in every month in order to do that. All right, the final note I just want to remind people of here is to think about mobile first. I think we all know that the big shift from desktop to mobile has really happened. Somewhere between, I think it was like 2014, 2015, was when officially more internet traffic happened on phones and mobile devices than they did on desktops and laptops. Certainly we all still use our desktops a lot, but it's important to remember that a lot of people are doing way more on their phones than they were ever before. And we want to think about this when we're sending our newsletters, because reading a newsletter on a phone can be a very different experience than reading one on your desktop. So the two things I like to sort of mention is, first, you want to think about a newsletter that's mobile friendly. Luckily, as a Build Your Firm client, the newsletter tool that you get is mobile friendly. The newsletters you send out will be what we call responsive, meaning no matter what device somebody's reading your newsletter on, it's going to look fine. The second factor you always want to think about is length. So you want to make sure to be informative and helpful while still being somewhat concise. So the articles, the way that your newsletter system works, the articles that you send, keep this in mind, because what they do is they offer the title, they offer a really brief snippet, and then they offer a link to let them keep reading. So if they want to read the entire article, they can click the link. It's going to bring them to your website to read that article. So it's not the entire article in every single email. But if you're drafting your email too, it's something to just keep in mind when you sort of think about how many articles you want to send and what you're writing sort of in your introduction. So that's sort of the final sort of tip to think about when it comes to a best practice for using your newsletter. But at this point, I want to jump into, I think, what's going to be like the sort of meat of this webinar, the part that I think a lot of you really want to see, and that is a demo of the newsletter system. While I navigate there, I'm going to put one more poll up on your screen and just get a little more information from you. I'm curious how many of you that have joined us are joining us now are using the newsletter tool that come with your website. So I'm going to put this up here. I'll give you about 60 seconds here. Let me know if you've used our tool or not, and I'm going to get our demo ready. All right, great. Thank you. All of you voted, which is great. It's always nice to see 100% participation when I do these webinars. So about 60% of you say you have never used the tool before. That's exciting for me to know that you haven't seen it. You're going to get to sort of see it now and see it in action. And then about 30% of you have used it. You've either used it in the past, but you're not using it now, or you are using it. Often. So we're going to sort of get in there. We're going to cover a demo of how it works, how to use it, and then I'm going to open it up to any questions you guys might have. So as I'm going through my demo, if any questions arise, please pop them into that chat window because I will answer all of your questions at the end. Anything that you think of, whether you're a person who uses the newsletter tool a lot and it's something that you were wondering about the newsletter, or you're sort of brand new to it and you're sort of learning how to do it. So up on your screen now, you should see a login form. Where I am is I'm at buildyourfirm.com/resources. This link will get sent to you as a follow-up to today's webinar if you don't have your login links saved anywhere. But this is where you come to log into your client dashboard. If you've never been to your client dashboard, it's essentially the back end of your website. It's where you can come to access all of the pieces that come with your site. So you'll see the content library is here. This is where you have access to Protected Exchange, which is the secure file sharing tool that comes with your website, information about BizPayo, the payment portal that you can sign up for as part of your website. And this is where you can come to access the newsletter system. So you'll see under the lead generation menu, we have Newsletter System 2.0. And this is where you can come to access it. Clicking on Newsletter Dashboard is going to take me straight out to the Newsletter Dashboard. I will just quickly note right underneath there, you'll see a Newsletter Info and Help link. This is a great place to come if you are new to the newsletter tool or you have somebody in your firm who's sort of taking over the newsletter system for you. We have tons of help documents in there, help videos on how to do things, FAQs, all of that stuff. So tons of helpful info in there as well about using the tool. But we're going to go ahead and get logged into the dashboard. If you've never logged in before, it's going to probably prompt you to just import any mailing contacts that you might have first. And then at that point, you're going to get brought to your dashboard, what's going to look like this. So the first thing that I'll sort of just point out is, and sort of the first thing that you do when you come into your newsletter system as a first time user is you want to set up your template. So I'm going to choose Manage Template. It's the fourth option here over on the right. You can have as many templates as you want, but a template is essentially just going to be the colors. So sort of like setting the colors and the branding of your newsletter. It has nothing to do with the content that's going inside of it. It's just going to be the way that it looks. So we can take a look at this one here. You can do, an image at the top if you want. You can do logo text if you just want to type in your firm name. You don't have an actual logo. You can just type in let's say ABC CPA firm here, or you can actually upload a logo file as well. If you have a file of your logo and you want to put that at the top, you can do that. You can upload your social media links. This is going to generate social media icons at the bottom of your newsletter. If you don't have any, you can leave this blank. And then you can customize the colors to match your firm. So we have some preset ones in here that you can use, or you can totally customize this as well if you want, and you can put any colors in here and change the way that you want it to look. That's the first step. You just want to have a template. Like I said, this isn't the content. It's just going to be the colors and the branding so that you can brand your newsletter so it's clear that it's coming from you and coming from your firm. I'm going to go back out to the dashboard, so I'm just going to choose dashboard here from the top menu. And the next thing that I would need to do is make sure that I have my mailing lists in here, right? I need to upload my recipients and I need to put them into mailing lists so that I can send them newsletters. This is, I find, usually the step that stops most people, because they get a little overwhelmed about the idea of having to upload people into the system. But we've made it pretty simple. You can upload people from any sort of Excel file. You're just going to save it as a CSV, which I'm going to show you how to do. And usually you can download those from your tax software, your Outlook calendar. Just download all of your contacts and you can upload them right into the system. So the first thing that you would need to do is make sure that you have a mailing list category set up. So from the top navigation, I'm going to choose mailing list, and then I'm going to go to manage mailing list categories. And this is where, like I mentioned earlier, you can organize all of your contacts into categories. And we do suggest organizing them into at least a couple of categories to help you send the most relevant content that you can to them. So in this example, currently on this demo account, I have one list of 1040 clients, and maybe I want to add a new list of business clients. So I'm going to click to add a new category, and I'm going to put in business clients. And now I've got another mailing list category here of business clients. So now what I need to do is I need to upload my contacts, my mailing list contacts, into the system. So like I said, the easiest way to do that is from some type of Excel file. I have an example up here of one, what one might look like. I have my clients' email addresses in here. A couple of them have companies associated with them. I've got their first name and their last name. And I'm just going to save this as a CSV file. A CSV file, if you don't know, is just a kind of Excel file. So from Excel, I'm just going to hit Save As. And where it says Save As Type, I'm just going to change it to be CSV. And I'm going to save this. So now this is saved as a CSV file, and I can upload all these people into the system just in one shoot. So from the same top menu, I'm going to choose Mailing List. And then I'm going to choose the last option, which is to import my mailing list. I want to import all my contacts into the system. I can choose to import them right into one category, which is great. This is going to save me time. Maybe these are all my business clients. I don't have to worry about assigning them to a category later. So I want to go ahead and upload all my business clients. I'm going to come out to my desktop. I'm going to get that CSV file that I just saved. And I'm going to click to upload. What the system's going to have me do is map the information from my Excel spreadsheet to match fields inside of the system. And it's going to do its best to sort of guess for me. So it just wants to make sure on my Excel file it said first name, and we want to bring those in as the first name. On my file, it said last name. I want to bring that column in as last name, company, email address, and so on. So your Excel file doesn't need to perfectly match up to the system. You do get the option to map your information. And then you can always skip columns as well. So I'll hit continue. That all looks good. And then it's going to show me all the contacts that were on that list. All these new recipients, I can quickly review and make sure I want to import anybody. If somebody was already in the system would tell me, hey, this person's already in there. And, do you want to skip this person, or do you want to, update their information? So you don't have to worry about having duplicates in the system. It'll let you know. But all these people are brand new. I'm going to go ahead and import them. I'm going to hit submit. And the system's going to let me know, this green box at the top, success, I've imported these 9 new recipients. And at this time I can actually go to mailing list, and I can go to view my mailing list, and I can see some of these people that I just added. I just added in this field right here. This person has been brought in, and they've been assigned to the business clients category. Now this person's in the system, and we're good to go. So once I have mailing list recipients in here, I can start sending them newsletters. So I'm going to pop back out to the dashboard here. So that's sort of a basic overview of how you get your clients into the system. It's really easy to just, upload them from any spreadsheet. You can always add them one at a time as well, but we find the easiest one is to just bulk import, get them all in there, and then you're good to go. So there are 3 different kinds of newsletters you can send from the newsletter system, and you see them right here at these 3 boxes along the top. The first is a send once option. This allows you to send a one-time newsletter that's going to go out just a single time. So you can choose to send it right now, or you can select it for a date in the future. This is really great for sending tax due date reminders, different announcements, reminding them about upcoming, things that might be upcoming. All of those things are great for sending one time. And you can schedule these out, into the future if you want to, sit down one day and sort of schedule out some of your one-time newsletters. The third option, I'm going to skip over the middle one first. The third option is special occasions. We do have the option for you to send out emails automatically on your recipients' birthdays. If you have your recipients' birthdays, you can upload it into the system, and you can automatically send out happy birthday emails from your firm. There's also some other like pre-formatted templates for special occasions and holidays in there, things like congratulations and thank yous and what have you. And then the middle option is the schedule recurring newsletter. This is the one that the majority of our clients use because it's sort of that set it and forget it option. You set up the newsletter one time, and then it's going to go out for you automatically on a schedule that you choose. So I'm going to show you, we'll sort of walk through what this one would look like. So I'm going to choose schedule recurring. It's going to ask me what type of message do I want to send. Do I want to write just a custom message? Do I want to send tax and accounting articles with a custom message, or do I want to use one of the pre-written messages? We have some pre-written messages in here, things about, tax due date reminders or welcome to our firm. But in this instance, I want to show you what it looks like to send those tax and accounting articles from the content library. So I'm going to choose send tax and accounting articles. The first thing it's going to do is, the second thing it's going to ask me to do is decide who I want to send this newsletter to. And this is why having your contacts in different categories is really helpful. For this example, let's say we're going to set this up as, how about a recurring newsletter to go out to business clients? And then we would, we're planning, maybe our thought is we're going to plan to send a separate one for our individual clients with content that's a little bit more related to them. So I'm going to choose to send this just to my business clients. You can choose multiple categories if you want. If you want to choose everyone, that's fine. You can totally do that. And then the next step is I'm going to choose the categories of articles I want to send. So the way that this system works is that it's going to send 4 articles per recurring newsletter from the categories you choose, never sending the same article twice. So what you do is you tell the system, I want to send articles about, let's say, business best practices, and I want to send business tax. And maybe, all my business clients are all in QuickBooks, or I'm trying to get them to use QuickBooks, so I want to send some QuickBooks articles as well. So I choose these 3 article categories, and then the system is going to choose 4 articles from random from these categories and send them out on every recurring basis. So I don't need to be manually choosing my article every single time that's not something that you have to worry about doing. So it's going to give me a little preview of what what an example might look like. Here's 4 articles that it might send. Like I said, it shows them the title, a little excerpt, and then there's going to be a link that's going to send them to your website to read the entire article. And you can add a custom message at the top if you want. This is an option for you to sort of personalize it a little bit, like I mentioned. You might want to say hello. If you want to insert their name, there's this list of available tags here. So you could put in mlist F name, which is going to pull in the person's first name to make it a little bit more personal. So we'll do that. So we might say something like, let's see, hello, and we'll put in their first name. I thought the following business articles might be of interest to you. And then you might want to put in your firm name here. You might want to put in your phone number, maybe your website address if you want. This is all stuff that you can personalize it to make it how you want. And when I hit next, it'll give us the chance to decide how often we want this newsletter to go out. So you are going to set it to go either weekly, every other week, every month. Usually once a month is a really good place to start. If you're not already sending a newsletter, you know something's going out every single month. It's not too much, but it's enough that you're consistent. We're going to have this start. Let's say we want to start sending it tomorrow and we want to have it go for an entire year. So I'm going to have it go until August 15th of 2019. The final page is just going to let me sort of preview how it looks. Obviously, I didn't put in a main logo. If I did, I'd sort of see that here, but this is that template that we created with the colors that we created. It's got my intro to it here. I just put a really basic one in. Obviously, you can personalize it. You can add images to that. And then it's going to be 4 of those sample articles with the links to read more. And at this point, I just need to give this email a subject. So I'll call it maybe CPA, BC CPA firm newsletter, or we'll call it business tips. You have the option to change where the newsletter is going to come from. You can send yourself a test copy here. So right at the bottom, I always like to point this out. It's always nice to send yourself a test if you want to see how it's going to look first and sort of make sure everything looks the way that it does. So you can send a test here, put in any email address, send a test to yourself, and take a look at how it's going to look. If for some reason maybe you need to check with somebody else at your firm before you schedule it, you can always save this for later and come back and edit it. Or if you're good to go, you can go ahead and hit submit for scheduling, hit send and schedule. It lets me know that this newsletter has been scheduled. And when I pop back out to the dashboard here, I'll actually see under this yellow bar here that I now have a scheduled newsletter. I have this ABC CPA firm business tips. It's going out every single month. If I want to click to learn a little bit more, remind myself of what the schedule was, I can click the magnifying glass and it reminds me, oh yeah, it's going out on Wednesday every single month. It's going out to these categories. This is when the next one's going out. And you can always, edit and delete it as well. So just because this is scheduled doesn't mean you can't change anything. You can always go ahead and edit the newsletter as well. So that is the sort of basics of how you kind of get into the system, how you upload your mailing list contacts, and how you can send out newsletters, really effortlessly. This took me, maybe 15 or 20 minutes because I was really talking through the whole thing, but you could get all of your mailing list contacts uploaded and a recurring newsletter set up on autopilot in about 15 minutes, and you have something going out to your clients. So at this point, what I want to do is I want to open it up to some questions. I've seen some questions have already come in. So I am going to pop into the chat box and take a look at some of your questions and sort of work through those as well. Let me put up on your screen as well, just so that you have it. This is going to be the support email. If you think of anything a little bit later, or you get into the newsletter system, you have some questions, you can always email support@buildyourfirm.com. That's going to get you anybody here on the support team that can help you with your newsletter tool. But let me just get through your questions here and we'll sort of work through them. Anything that you are wondering about, feel free to ask in the chat box. And give me 1 second here. I'm just reading through your questions. Like I said, I am flying solo on today's webinar, so let me just read through these questions and I'll get through them. Okay, so the first question I see is, how do we add additional email addresses once you've uploaded the initial list? So that's a great question. I'll pop back into the system here to show you. So what you watched me do was a demo of uploading all of your contacts. At any point, you can continue to upload more contacts. So if you upload your initial list and then you have 5 more people to add, you can either add them manually, you can come to mailing list and choose add a new mailing list recipient, and you can add them, one at a time that way. Or if you have a handful, you have 5 or 10 or 15 you want to add, you can always just import another list. So you can import lists as many times as you want. Lots of times we have clients that will come in and keep their lists updated. They'll come in every few months and sort of re-upload. Like I said, it will let you know if there's duplicates. So if you're uploading your whole list again, it'll say like, hey, these 50 people are already in there, and you don't have to worry about uploading them again. The next question says, when a client receives the email newsletter, who does it come from? Is that customizable, or is it generic do not reply to email? So the email comes, looks like it's coming from you. When it comes through to your the person's email, it'll look like it's coming from your email address, and that's sort of in the very final step. When I showed you the very final step of the page where you could send a test newsletter, you can change the email address there. And what happens is it comes through and that email is CC'd on the newsletter. So if somebody replies all, it's actually going to come through to that email as well. So I think that answers that question. It looks like it's coming through from whatever email address that you put in there, whether you want to use your info @ or you want to use your personal email or whatever. Let's see here. There's a question about what program do we use. I'm assuming you mean what program do we use for the newsletter tool. Our newsletter tool is a proprietary tool. It was built completely in-house, so we control all aspects of it. It's not some sort of third-party integration. It was built specifically by Build Your Firm for Build Your Firm clients. This next question is a little specific. It's about in the past, this is somebody who's been using the newsletter tool for a while. In the past, I've had several edits to my newsletter, for example, adding different contacts or categories. And she's saying it seems like it takes a long time to pull up each contact to make the change. So I'm thinking that you're meaning when you come to mailing list and you go to view your mailing list, and then you're choosing to possibly edit the person, that this is taking a long time. And Laura, if you want to email me afterwards or give me a phone call to work through it, that's fine. If it's taking a long time, it shouldn't take too long to pull up these contacts. As you saw, I was able to pull it up pretty quick. So I don't know exactly what part you're sort of hitting that's taking a long time, but we could sort of work through that part together. But if you want to shoot me an email or let me know which step it is that seems to be taking a longer time for you, there may be a quicker way for you to do it, so let me know. Let's see what else questions we've got here. I don't want to miss anybody. Question about adding your own images or your own links. So yes, you can add your own images and links inside the system. I'll just show you that really, really quick. So if you were at the point where you were writing a custom message, I'm just going to get to that screen so you can see it. So this is that screen where we were writing the sort of introduction to the newsletter. You have the option to add images. When I click add images here, there's going to be some stock images you can choose from that we offer to you that you're welcome to pop in there. But you also have the option to upload your own images as well. And you do that under the Manage Newsletter option along the very top here. You'll see Manage Content Images. And you can upload any of your own images that you want to be able to use, and then they'll be available for you to insert inside of the newsletter. They'll be available once you upload them to Manage Content Images. They'll show up here in your image library. You also have the option to add any links that you want as well. So you'll see the screen that you're looking at is sort of like a basic editor, kind of like an email editor. So you can easily say, I don't know, maybe you want to have, or let's say tax organizer. You're not going to put their actual tax files there. That wouldn't be very secure. But maybe you have a blank tax organizer and you want to send them a link to it. You can, just like in your email, you can highlight the text and you can choose to make this a link, whatever it is. You have a link to it, and then you can insert that right in here. You can make it a link to a PDF as well. Lots of times we have clients that want to link to a PDF, and that's available as well. If you don't have a link to your PDF, you can send it to one of us on the web team, and we'll upload it to your website and give you a unique link so that you can link right from your website. Looks like we have another question. Are there different templates to choose from? So as far as the actual templates, you can manage your template as far as the branding, the colors, the social media links at the bottom. You also can add a bottom menu. Let me show you that really quick. So I'm going to go to the Manage Template box here. That's that last box on the right. I'm just going to click to preview this guy. So as far as the actual template, it will always be your branding at the top. It'll always be your custom message next, followed by any of the articles that you choose, and then the footer. So you can't sort of drag and drop that order, but you can customize this, meaning you can put your own logo in, you can put your own colors in. Along the bottom here where it says small business accounting, tax services, get in touch, consultation, these are all links that you can change, and you can make them go to whatever you want. If you want them to go to your blog, you want them to go to your website, you can update those links as well. Question about can you add columns into the newsletter, and the answer is no. The main reason we don't allow columns inside of the newsletter is because on mobile devices that gets really, really dicey, and lots of times the columns don't display well on all devices. You know, it might look okay on somebody looking on Gmail, but on Outlook it might not look so good, which is why we use just the vertical, because it helps us ensure that no matter kind of who you're sending the newsletter to and what device they decide to open it up on, knowing that people are reading their emails on all sorts of devices. My husband just bought one of those Apple Watches and is like reading his emails on a watch, which is just crazy to think about. But this will look good on no matter what device they're on, which is why we do it this way. So no, you cannot add columns. And next question. If you want to add your own image, can you adjust how the text goes around the image? And the answer is yes. You can pop the image in wherever you want. You can have the text wrap around the image. You can center the image. That's all available from the little editor that's in there. So you can get sort of pretty customizable with it. You have the option to sort of do quite a bit in there because it is a regular sort of editor. I think I missed one question about how often should I send a newsletter. That's a common question that we get a lot. A lot of that sort of depends. Usually if you're not sending a newsletter right now, something that we usually say is starting once a month is a really good place to start. I always like to say it's enough that you're consistent and people are used to seeing your email come through their email box, but it's not so much that people kind of get like annoyed and they feel like you're sending too much content to them. But that's totally up to you. Depending on who you're sending it to, it might make sense for certain clients to send it more often, or maybe, right before tax season or during tax season, you want to send it to them every other week, and then off tax season, you can dial it back and do only once a month. So you do have that option. Somebody said, can we have a quarterly option for sending the newsletter? So the newsletter allows you to do weekly, bi-weekly, monthly, bi-monthly, and annually. So as far as for auto sending, you can always manually schedule newsletters as well. So if you just want to do 4 newsletters a year, you can always do the send once option. It'll take you a few minutes longer, but if you're only doing 4, it won't be too bad. You can choose the send once, schedule one for August 15th and then go out, 4 more months and do the next one 4 months later. The send once option allows you to choose articles from the content library, just like the recurring one does. So you have the option to even customize it a little bit more. So if you were going to do quarterly, I'd probably suggest you do the send once and you just schedule them out 4 times throughout the year. So that's that option in there. All right, I think that I've gotten through most of the questions. I really appreciate you guys asking questions because it's always nice to sort of know the questions that you guys to answer your questions, sort of know like what you're wondering about the newsletter system. But because, like I said, it is a system that we own and we control and we built, we're always looking at ways that we can improve it as well. So it's always really helpful for me to know the questions and the sort of things that you guys are wondering about the system. But I'm going to leave the chat box open for about 5 more minutes here. I'll hang on in case any additional questions come through, and I'll answer them. Otherwise, You will get an email from me here shortly just thanking you for being part of the webinar. Feel free to just reply right to that email if you have any other questions, and I will get back to you with answers to those if you think of something later. But I'm going to leave this open here for about 5 more minutes. If I see any more questions come through, I'll answer them. Otherwise, I really appreciate you guys joining me for today's webinar, taking about 45 minutes out of your day to learn a little bit more about the newsletter tool. I hope that this encourages you to use the tool and start utilizing it to just, you know, like I said, get those email contacts in here, set your newsletter up to sort of get set on autopilot and know you have something going out to your clients. It's really a valuable tool. I see one more question that came through. The person said, do you think putting other information in the newsletter aside from tax information is okay? And I think, yeah, absolutely. It's fine to put additional information inside of the newsletter. I think, like I sort of said at the beginning, doing things like adding things that are going to make it a little bit more personal is always really nice. So, you know, the intro is a great place to do that. Whether you're putting just a little information about your firm, you're putting something in there to make it a little bit more personal. I think that's always a nice thing to do to make it basically feel a little bit more organic and authentic. So yeah, I think it's absolutely okay. I think having those articles is what's really important because that's the content that people really want. It's like the value of the newsletter. But any things that you can do in addition to that to sort of personalize it is always a great idea. John, thank you. I see your message coming through letting me know that you thought that this was a very informative webinar and organized. I really appreciate it. I'm really glad that you enjoyed it, and I hope that it was really informative for you. But it does look like that's done it for questions, so I'm just going to officially close this webinar out. So I'm going to like I said, you'll get an email from me here in about 45 minutes. So anything that I missed or you think of, just shoot me an email back to that. If you want a copy of the recording of today's webinar, it'll be in your webinar library. So yes, there will be recordings of this, Laura. It's going to be inside your client dashboard under your webinar library. But if you can't find it, you're going to have my email here pretty shortly. If you haven't already emailed me before, you can always contact me. I'll just shoot you a link to it once it's live. Usually takes us about 24 hours to get the recordings up and live. But besides that, I hope you guys are all having a great Tuesday, and hopefully I will get a chance to talk to you outside of this webinar or in another webinar that I'm teaching this month.